Okay, so let's talk about this a little bit. All right. Vocal critic. Oh. 1, 2, 3, 4. All right, let's talk about this a little bit. Vocal city critic files ethics complaint, this time against the city manager. All right, well, this video is just about one of Mauro's comments. So Mauro said, okay, well, he said I'm incoherent. Can you discuss this one thing about? So let's talk about the films today and take it to thought. Did you catch that? Oh. Well, Mr. Mauro, city manager, says I'm incoherent, so I thought I'd practice. Incoherent. Anyway, this is not about me being incoherent. Whatever opinion people have of my communication style, this video is about, what is this video about, Rev? You kind of get to the point. Excuse me? I'm getting to the point. Mauro said that I am going to cost the city tens of thousands of dollars. Oh, Mr. Mauro, who gets like, what, $200,000 a year and creates massive liability all the time for the city. He's now concerned with this. Okay. So, who's costing the city? Mauro sided with the YMCA immediately. Mauro authorized the hiring of a PR group to go after one opinion and support another opinion. Mauro let the YMCA narrate the city's official stance, as public records show. Your dollars were wasted in supporting the YMCA, and now, in the Julie Jaman civil rights case, the city argues, we was independent. We're two different agencies, we're independent. They weren't independent. They didn't act independent. Mauro didn't even know the bathrooms were in compliance or not, okay? And the lawsuit's not about the bathrooms. It's about civil rights. It's about First Amendment rights. Mauro created the issue. Mauro is the risk manager for the city per his manager's contract. And he puts the city at financial liability all the time. Mauro's, all the money that went to Evans Vista, he just threw money away. Check out the Free Press's article this week about Evans Vista. Mauro wastes money on all kinds of things that don't benefit us, regular, people. You have to be in the hive mind. You have to be in the hive mind to rent the KPTZ, the building from that. You have to be like, well, we're going to pick only people that, work well with the Dove House and the YMCA and everything. Well, nobody does. Who works well with them? All of them come out and attack Julie Jaman. Okay? The Dove House helps Libby Wennstrom to attack abuse victims. Okay? If anybody Libby knows is involved, all of these nonprofits and prominent people, nothing. Okay? The judges hand out protective orders. They'll do whatever for these folks. Okay? So they create the financial liability. Okay, so Mauro created the financial liability for all these different reasons. He lied on his resume, lied on his credential. He wasn't qualified to manage. Oh, he did so good during COVID. Baloney. He went with the narrative. He didn't study anything. He just went with the Democratic talking points, no matter what Sandoval says out there, who's pulling all the puppet strings. Mauro says, I'm costing the city tens of thousands of dollars because I called out how he cost the city tens of thousands of dollars. Okay, so Faber costs the city tens of thousands, okay, hundreds of thousands, millions of dollars, Mauro, Faber, Libby, Howard, costing the city, right? So what they did to Julie Jaman created a liability. It was a civil rights violation, a human rights violation. They, as city officials, you don't target one group over another. Or maybe Mauro could have said, okay, well, let's set up a committee and investigate what happened. But instead, public records show clearly that the PR company, he sided with the YMCA. He hit the entire staff, so hundreds and hundreds of people, emails, right? He picked a side as their boss, right? Pressuring them to pick a side. And if anybody within the city supported Jaman, then they're going against their boss, right? So there's retaliation. So Mauro created these millions of dollars in liability, and so did Faber. Faber created the liability, homeward bound, right? Millions of dollars to that. They knew it wasn't going anywhere. It was his friends, right? Faber does real estate development. So he has, several real estate development companies. And he has with Theo Howard, they're developing the property on 13th Street, so they're building houses. Now, Theo Howard was running for city council, right? I don't think that they disclosed just all of their financial involvements. Faber bragged that the golf course was a good place for housing because it was walking distance to Uptown. But then when I said in the ethics complaint that his property on 13th Street was within walking distance of the YMCA property and the golf course, he said, no, it's a long ways away. Well, it's closer than Uptown, right? So he double talks all the time, creates liability for the city. What kind of a massive liability was he creating with Theo Howard, right? So Theo, he used the city newsletter to promote Olympic Housing Trust to build houses on the golf course. Faber used his clout as the mayor in the newspaper to recommend Olympic Housing Trust build the houses on the golf course, build and control the houses on the golf course. Never disclosing that a few blocks away, he was developing, I got all the permits and everything on it, 13th Street, a property that he owned 50-50, him and his wife 50%, and Theo Howard 50%. Okay, they're developing it, they're bringing in electric, bringing in water, that Lexar homes or whatever, they're putting homes there. So they have a real estate development. He's a real estate development with Theo Howard while he's promoting his nonprofit and while Theo Howard was trying to be city council. And my ethics complaint exposed that. Okay? These are the people that are costing you tens of thousands of dollars, but really they're costing you, hundreds of thousands to millions and all kinds of liability. Okay, Libby Wennstrom. She uses the police as like her own private force. She had access to the prosecutor during her divorce. It was illegal to evict that Luke Seymour herself as a landlord at the time. She went there and evicted him. Not only that, it was during a moratorium for the COVID stuff. She wasn't allowed to evict him. She took one of the Salish Rescue thugs over there, evicted him. John Stewart did a standby. Kamal Sheriff was there. Officer Moore was there. There was county and city. Olson was there. But yet when Jenny Ellison tried to move out of where she was, she couldn't get no civil standby. She lost all of her stuff. Libby Wennstrom paid her attorney, or she got her attorney, Alton McFadden, to represent the abuser. The courts gave the abusers protective orders against me and against Jenny. And if you see my stuff out there, they're creating liabilities. Libby Wennstrom got online and organized people to protest Julie Jaman at the YMCA. Okay, creating a liability for the city, took a side. Okay, she went at Julie. Libby brought in Salish Rescue Crew thugs to organize and attack us. She said, I think it was funny that they sabotaged their equipment. That's in public records. She's caused the liability. Amy Howard calling me a TERF. She didn't know me. I didn't even know what the word TERF meant. That wasn't fair. It wasn't nice. Nazi, bigot, TERF. What? They created the liability. But because the Rev come in, found all the public records, pitched it to attorneys, and made the case, now I'm costing the city tens of thousands of dollars. Because they did the bad things in the dark room, and I went in and turned the light on in the dark room, I'm costing the city tens of thousands of dollars. Right? They cost it, and they created the liability. But because I call it out, I'm the problem. Okay? So, Mr. Mauro, here's the deal. I promise, cross my heart, I promise to not cost the city tens of thousands of dollars by calling out all of your bad deeds, okay? What I'm surmising here is that me exposing what you have done, lying about the permit process, what you have done to violate First Amendment rights, civil rights, hurt people, and cause massive financial damage. What Mauro has done, that's a felony to deliberately deny public records. It says right there, he's not going to give the public records to Julie or Jim. I put it in my Mauro ethics complaint and advised others not to. That's a felony, okay? That's a liability. Let me tell you a little story about Libby here. Now, there's lots of these. I had about 60 public records by the time I finally sued. It waited. Libby's like, she's trying to enrich herself. Waited over a year. They didn't communicate with me. They didn't respond at all. So I finally, Universal Church of Light, we finally sued the city to get them to produce any documents. Here's one little example, because Libby likes to say how much I'm costing the city, and I've stopped the whole entire government. In June of 2023, I made a public records order. Okay, so Haley, the public records officer, contacted Libby and asked her for the information. Libby ignored her. Haley contacted her again. Libby communicated a little bit with her. Okay, in case you're wondering here, I'm on a bouncy ball. So then Libby stopped communicating. So also with that, when Heidi, the city attorney, left, we were in a different public records lawsuit over the incident action plan because they redacted it, preparing for terrorists. And Heidi told my attorney at the time she couldn't get the council members to give the public records. She was having trouble getting them to do it. So they're creating the financial liability, not someone who points it out. Okay, so Haley's like, Libby, I need this, and if you don't want to do it, we could have staff do it. Just telling Libby, right? So then finally, either Mauro's direction or whatever, Haley gives up. So no longer did the public records officer communicate with me on a timeline or give me any public records. Okay, so a year passed, a whole entire year, $100 a day fines, and lawyers for the city and lawyers for Universal Church of Light. Libby's saying I cost the city, right? But she deliberately ignored the public records officer telling her we need to deal with this. ReverendCrystalCox@gmail.com if you're interested in this information. It's in my lawsuit. I'm probably going to do a video on this particular one. There's many examples of this. So then I, as one of the directors of Universal Church of Light, sued the city in June of 2024. So waited a whole year patiently, right? But I've slowed the entire government down by all my requests. Okay, so then 2 months later, Libby has to comply with the city because now they're in a lawsuit, right? So, and this same public records request Faber was in. And so then by August 2024, Libby and Faber both signed the Neeson Declaration that says, I swear I've looked at all my stuff and I don't have any of that, right? Jot down this third camera review. There's case law on that. So you can get a third party to review all the city councilors' Facebook messages, Twitter messages, emails to see if if they lie. Because of course they're going to lie and not give you all of them. Like Faber, for example, when I ordered his, he had parties delete the other side. Okay, so they're always trying to hide stuff. I'm working with this other public records guy, and he said that a lot of the officials in Jefferson County use a back-channel Gmail account too. So, but you can catch them on this third-party camera review, right? Anyway, so then Libby finally answers the public record officer after ignoring her for a year. And this is all in the public records. Because of the lawsuit, she answered. So she signs this document that says, "Oh, there are no public records. I don't have any." Could have done that the first day, the first week. She waited over a year in a lawsuit, but tells the PT leader that I'm costing the city, that I'm trying to enrich myself, and I'm slowing down government. She didn't slow down government. She completely stopped government. She deliberately denied public records. She deliberately didn't answer the public records officer. $100 a day in attorney fees she cost the city by ignoring the requests of the public records officer for over a year, and then only answered 2 months after the city was sued. And then to say, oh, well, there was none. Okay? They're the ones costing the tens of thousands, the hundreds of thousands, of millions of dollars. Mauro likes to say in the paper. Okay, so Mauro says in the paper that the Rev here, is costing the city tens of thousands of dollars. Well, I'll guarantee you, Mr. Mauro, what I've exposed of city councilors and what I intend to expose, and the federal, city, state, and local investigations that are going on about you folks, and the lawsuits that are in the queue coming at you folks, I guarantee you, I'm not going to cost you tens of thousands of dollars. I would never. I'm going to cost you millions of dollars. Millions and millions of dollars, and hopefully indictments. Oh, she's going after the city's money. It's all about money. No, this is millions of dollars for your victims, okay? For your fraud, for your breach of fiduciary duty, for your terrorizing women, for your not separating groups, okay? For you lying about the permit process, Mauro, and saying, well, we didn't have that with Amy because she said no police in the permit process. So did we. When Robert filed for our permit for the second event, he said no police, and we had 60, right? We had helicopter police, we had drones, we had Coast Guard, we had 60, like, Calhoun County Police, we had Riot Police, we had Jefferson County Police, we had State Police, right? And we didn't need it then, because Washington 3% and some Proud Boys come up and protected this lesbian and some other witches and lesbians, you know, those big bad conservatives that hate everybody, protected us who believe very different than them so we could speak, so that Mauro's mob wouldn't hurt us and silence us. Mauro lied to the public and further incited hate against us, and continues to do so. He never retracted, he never stopped. So the liability created to the city was the city council and the city manager, the mayor. Okay? The Rev, getting all the public records now every day on this for 2.5 years, because it's my passion and it's my spiritual work, is not what caused the liability. I simply turned the light on in the room where you're doing very bad things. And like I said, you have caused not tens of thousands in damage, but millions of dollars in damage. You've spent millions of dollars on projects for you. Look at the Lawrence Street project. 300% more than you originally told the public it would cost. You guys are idiots. You don't know anything about management. You don't know anything about money. You don't know anything about real estate or people or anything that really matters. You just pretend, right? You're like a kid that spilled a bunch of stuff on the table and then uses a rag to just wipe it to other parts of the table, right? You created the problem. You spend millions of dollars. Mauro thinks the ethics complaint, well, it's a process, and Reverend Crystal, she's eroding the process. No, I'm the only one. Did you guys know that? Did you guys see that email? 2017 was this outgoing city council in Port Townsend. It's in the PT leader. If you want information on it, email me. They changed how the ethics review process works. And since 2017, me, Reverend Crystal Cox, is the only one that's ever filed an ethics complaint. They've only used it for their own benefit, for their own land uses. I filed it. And every ethics complaint I file, it's a new process. Okay? With the Libby Wennstrom complaint, I sent an ethics complaint to the city. Okay? Sent it to city council, sent it to city manager. Ignored me. Month passed, not a word. Okay, so then after 2 months, I sent it again. Okay? And then Jenny Ellison, the Sailors Rescue whistleblower, talked to some people on city council about how this was important. Something like that went down. And then they talked to Mauro. And then Mauro said, oh, okay. So Mauro messaged me and said, okay, per this code, we're going to send this to Phil. He's our ethics hearing officer or whatever. Forwarded it to Phil, okay, the hearing officer. Then I did the complaint within the city code. Then they had me do it within the state code. Then they had me do it another way. There's just quite a process. Okay, so then that's over. Libby's innocent, right? Everything I put in the ethics complaint, Libby did, okay, and she'll be sued for. But it's not, unethical, and people just love Libby, the demon Libby. Okay, so then the Faber complaint comes along, and they're like, whoa, we don't have an ethics officer. Like, we have no contract. Like, we can't pay him. Like, we don't even know what you're talking about, right? Completely different than the Libby complaint that Mauro had forwarded. He said, oh, this is what we do with ethics complaint. Well, now it's all of a sudden different. Okay, so they make new rules, they make new laws, they make a new contract, and then they go through the Faber ethics complaint. And Faber, of course, lies, and he bullies the paper, and he bullies me, knows he should have recused on that Lawrence Street vote. He'd signed a memo that said he would recuse. Mauro was in on it, the city attorney was in on it, city staff was in on it. They all knew he should recuse. Ben knew he should recuse, but stood by, just like they stood by and watched the mob attack us. They stood by and watched Faber and Libby and Howard attack me and attack the PT leader, knowing they'd signed that document, knowing that the complaint had merit, okay? So everything I've stated is true, and every ethics complaint, and I backed it up with public records. Whether you believe it or not is your business. My spiritual work is to bring it to you, okay? All right, so then here we are now, March 2025. So I file a Faber ethics complaint and I file a Mauro ethics complaint about a week apart because I wanted to bring the memo attention to everybody. Like, hey, there's something wrong here. So the city ignored it, right? They didn't respond to me. But, oh, gee darn. The newspaper reported on it. So the city's like, well, it isn't official, and she didn't do it right, and she didn't do it proper, and procedurally it's incorrect, and right? Well, I did it how I did it before. So then Mauro emails Phil, the hearing officer who works for him, right? And says, I don't know what to do about the Faber complaint. It's old, it's hashing old information, and I don't even know, and we're going to have new stuff, on March 17th, we're going to vote for some new stuff, and, I don't even know. You want to call? You want to talk on the phone? Completely unethical. Hello? Okay, so Phil, he's being very ethical, and he sent all of the documents to all the parties. Okay, so now, then, there's a new procedure. So now I have to take the complaints and go through the city clerk and through this other procedure, right? Every time I do it, there's another procedure. And then on March 17th, there's a vote where city council is going to change the procedures on how ethics reports are done again. And who gets punished and how, okay? So now, will John Mauro participate in those rule changes? And will Faber participate in those rule changes? Because that would be a conflict of interest, right? So, Mr. Mauro, costing you tens of thousands of dollars. Let's see, how did he exactly win? Oh, no one wins here. Yeah, we win. Transparency, the public wins. Stopping you from spending millions of dollars, putting people's lives in danger, not caring whether or not we're beat in the street and silenced, not separating the groups, not standing up for us at all and picking a side, exposing you as a win for every living, breathing human being, which we are, by the way. I know you never saw us as that, but we are. Julie Jaman and her supporters, human beings. Okay, human beings. So it says, no one wins here, as we'll spend tens of thousands of dollars processing the complaint, even though she did a procedure error. Well, yeah. You've cost the city a lot, Mauro, with your felonies, with your fraud. Even if, I didn't do it, the headhunters did it. They did. Okay, well, they did it. You still haven't reconciled it. You haven't offered to take less of a pay cut. You're like, I'm experienced now. Ball. Okay, you're not good at your job just because you have grant writers that get grants and bring in money, and you're not a good manager. Okay, you have destroyed the community. You've destroyed the gay and lesbian community. We are a complete mess. We'll never come back together. Okay, all based on your lies that you fed the public about what happened in that locker room and who we were, the Nazi bigot turf. No, Mauro didn't call me that. Howard did. Libby called us turfs. Mayor Faber called us all turfs. But Mauro's kind of sneaky, right? When I'd ordered some different Facebook messages, some different messages and things, and they always come back with Mauro and go, the city code is pretty, it's pretty clear. You're not allowed to communicate on anything other than email, so, we don't do that. So Mauro's stuff is all locked up tight, right? But I'll bet if he did that third camera review and got a hold of his computer through a court, that he would be communicating through something. I don't know, Snapchat or some back channel, something. But Libby, Wennstrom, all of them communicate on Facebook, through Facebook messages. Faber was doing a lot of Twitter messages at the time, now X. They probably have Snapchat. They have Blue Sky. They have a lot of places they communicate. They don't follow the city code. They don't follow the city code on anything. And it doesn't matter, right? I can list them all day everywhere they violate the code, but there's no consequence. There's none. So it doesn't matter. And then they're like, well, just vote in new people. Like Ben out there the other day, why don't, people run for city council? Why don't people run for city council? 12 whistleblowers came forward with Brent Shirley. Okay, some people afraid of their lives and their livelihood, okay? The retaliation of Libby Wennstrom, Amy Howard, Faber, Diamante, Theo Howard, all of these gang-stalking lunatics that run all of the large nonprofits, run the grant money, run the jobs, run the county, you cannot stand up against them. Why bother going to be a counselor when you cannot stand up to him? Ben, he pretends to. He talks to the public and he communicates with people, but what can he do or what will he do? So yeah, I'm going to go in there and be a counselor. Their hive mind has it all sewed up. The only thing you can do is expose them. And so hopefully the ethics process is getting all cleaned up, and hopefully members of the public moving forward in the coming years that you file ethics complaints, and that you send tips to the paper, and that you start a blog, and that you start a Facebook page or whatever, and you expose what you know. Because if you don't stand up for people like these 12 whistleblowers, nobody can come forward. They go after their children, okay? They have evicted people. I have got 12 criminal charges for speech. Libby Wennstrom's Salish Rescue has put me through fucking hell while you all stand by and watch it. Okay? My First Amendment rights violated. They stalk me to the store and get a criminal charge. Okay? They come to my house, get criminal charges for me for they got protective orders, and I file a criminal complaint against a city official. I get a criminal complaint. I file for public records. I get a criminal complaint. Okay? They own the judges. They own the cops. They own everything. Until you, the public, comes forward and stands up in mass, it doesn't do any good who's on city council, because the mob will take control of them. You have to expose them, okay? I'm doing what I can. It's all I can do, and it's a spiritual calling for me. But when Mauro and his whining and whatever, however this ethics process goes along, and you be whining about, oh, it's money she's costing in the integrity, and she's incoherent, and blah, blah, blah. Mauro is a demon. He is a dirty demon. What he did to Libby, what he and Libby and Faber and Amy Howard did to Amy Sousa and Julie Jaman and her supporters is unthinkable. Watching an 80-year-old pummeled, rape survivors, women pummeled at a permanent event, those cops are demons. They're not good guys, okay. But if they're willing to violate your constitutional rights because Mauro said so, and Greenspane, Sergeant Jason Greenspane, was in charge of the crowd dispersal. He wasn't even there. They give us the smackdown, and they want us to feel sorry because the red's costing us money. You demons need to be out of leadership. Period. End of story.